report?
Okay.
Or do you want to do this? Yeah, sure, whatever you would.
Everyone hear me? This is an upgrade, an update of the revenue estimate for the next fiscal year. So we are about to begin the budget process. And so what I've done is I've given you actuals. I think most of you on the school committee, advisory board, and board of selectmen received a copy of this by email. There are some extra copies over here if anyone would like to have a copy. So what we've done is basically taken the actuals for 2012, actuals for 13, the actuals for 14. These numbers are taken off the tax recap sheet, so we at least know that the state considers them accurate. We've also taken the budgeted amounts for fiscal 15, the current fiscal year, and here's the draft. This is what we're all about tonight, the draft for fiscal 2016, and I put a dollar difference column over here. I hope you can see it. Since I distributed this sheet originally several weeks ago, there have been a few changes, most of them coming from the assessors. The assessors have informed me that although we didn't include any new growth in the revenue picture for fiscal 2014, there was in fact 53,000 and change, and also another 1,000 from the prior year. This is prior year amended new growth. The state will give you that information towards the end of your fiscal year. So that raises the levy limit to 7,900, and then in the current year, we've learned that there was prior year new growth of $6,031, and that the assessor confirmed again today to me that we expect an additional $65,000 in revenue from new growth in fiscal 15. This does not include any new growth revenue that we get from the 10K energy project. That project is not underway. It should be underway this year, and we may get additional new growth revenue from new values from that project. But I'm not counting it because we don't have it right now, and we're not completely sure when the project will be generating electricity. So what we get is a levy limit then of projected levy limit of $8,424,000. And included in the levy limit is any debt exclusions or capital exclusions, 867. And so the maximum allowable levy, also called the levy limit, in the coming fiscal year should be $9,292,012. Again, we filed the tax recap with the Commonwealth, with the Department of Revenue. We're going to amend it for the new growth numbers that have just come in the last 10 days. State aid, it was $1 million. State aid was $1,435,000 this year, and next year I'm projecting a modest increase, and basically that's based on the pattern here. Local receipts is going to see a big jump, and a big part of that is the $242,000 that we are getting in reimbursements for the $500,000 design monies for the projected new elementary school. That reimbursement will come in this year, is coming in. I guess all the papers have been filed. So we expect a big bump there. And you'll notice next year, unfortunately, it goes down again. So we go from here to here and then back to here. So we're losing not only the 242, but some additional local receipts. These are fees, charges that we get from building permits, and also included is the automobile or motor vehicle tax that's included there. That's the big item. So now, in addition to, here's the point, your tax levy your debt exclusions, your state aid, your local fees and charges, and then you take available funds. You take available funds, and it can also be used to fund your operating budget. This year, as with last year, current year and next year, no free cash. So that hazard, that problem, and you can see the problem. See, free cash in 2012 was $686,000. And because you can't predict it, it goes up, it goes down, it fell off the cliff in 13 and really went down again in 14. And so part of the budget problem last year was the decline in the amount of free cash, which then caused part of the budget problem. So, I think the selectmen and I agree that the best policy is not to use free cash to operate, but rather use free cash for one-time purchases or capital purchases. The ambulance fund, we anticipate $180,000 again next year. Overlay surplus, we're not using any of that either, although I believe there is some. Electric department contribution, as you can see, was 100, 150, and then in the current year, it was $31,552. We have already had some discussions about next year. I've had some discussions with the manager, and there again, I put that number in there. I hope that that's a reasonable figure. And so we're going to add this amount in so-called available funds, and taking it down further, we can see that the total revenue to the town next year is projected $13,325,000. That's up $155,000. Now, in addition to the revenue that comes in, revenue gets taken away. And so these are offsets and charges that we must pay. Cherry sheet offsets, some money comes in on the cherry sheet and goes directly to the department. The library, for example, gets about $10,000 on the cherry sheet. We don't see it. It's money that they can spend, but it goes directly to them. And so we're pulling that out because it's included in the cherry sheet number up above. So we're taking out, projected $11,000. Cherry sheet charges, those are the fees and charges that the state charges back to the town, and all towns for that matter, for services that they provide. Now, here's something important. As you can see, I have no idea what the Monty Tech assessment is going to be next year, and I don't have any idea what the Narragansett Regional School District assessment is going to be, so I level funded them. That's something we want to talk about tonight, obviously, with the school committee. Cherry sheet overlay deficits, we had one example of that this year, but we're hoping we don't have another snow and ice deficit. Unpaid bills we're going to take care of at the special town meeting. Contribution to stabilization. Up here, you recall that we got $31,000 from the Light and Water Department. Well, we didn't put that into the general fund. At the town meeting, the special town meeting in July, we put that into the stabilization fund. And we've upped the allowance for abatements. The assessors have said to us that we have underfunded the allowance for abatement in recent years, and it should go to that level, so we've increased it. All said and done, it looks like the town will have $7,419,896 remaining funds after this. However, and that's a 3.27% increase. Keep in mind that's a false number because we haven't taken out the assessments for the two school districts. So when we take out the assessments for the two school districts, the number here, which will be the number remaining for the town government, will be, I would assume, significantly less. Now, these numbers here are also hyperlinked back here. This is the worksheet. As you can see, we have the unrestricted general government aid that every city and town gets. I've raised that only $10,000. Veterans benefits are going up. because veteran services are going up in town. This number is roughly the same. Please note this number, state-owned land. Look at this. In fiscal 14, the town received $114,000 as an offset or as compensation for lands that the state owns. We are now faced with the prospect that the Templeton Development Center is going to close. There will be additional services required of the town. Simultaneously, the amount of money we get for state-owned land went from 114 down to 82. We've conveyed this to our state representative and our state senator. They understand this, and they understand that state aid can't go down and services provided by the town can't increase, and that doesn't equate, it doesn't make sense. Here's the offset, the cherry sheet offset for the library, for example. Down here are the fees and charges that we anticipate. Cars are selling, so I raised this number to 930. Keep in mind that 2 years ago it was 948. So I'm hoping that's a conservative number there. All these other numbers are the same. This number here is a big one. That's the money that we get from the enterprise funds for benefits that we pay, and then they reimburse us. And then keep in mind, here's the 242 that we received this year for reimbursement for the debt exclusion for the school design. We will not get it next year. So next year you can see the amount of fees and charges go down. Those of you who have the electronic spreadsheet, if you see those little arrows there, if you just highlight the arrow, it'll remind you of this money is about $25,000. Anybody know what the 25 contributed by the schools is? That's their contribution for snow removal. Okay, and then I have a section on, these are the state assessments, $53,000 total. These are monies that we have to contribute to regional transit and other purposes. Now, here's an interesting set of figures here. What I've done is I've taken the base operating budget for 15, and I've increased it by 1%, it's $131,000. The total is $13,301. Here's our revenue estimate, and if we increase spending on the town side by 1%, we get a surplus or deficit of 24,000 surplus. If we go to 1.5 right now, it looks like it'll create a deficit of 41,000. So right now, given what we know about revenue, a 1% increase seems to be where we're going to be on the town side. Now, this last page is, I hope, some useful data on the town's financial circumstances. First of all, total valuation is going up. The assessor told me today that it's going from $540 million to $544.1. It was $540.6. It's going to be $544.7. So that's good news. The town is getting new growth. Our levy limit is $8,957,081. The tax rate currently is 16.24. If we approve the 2 overrides that are on the ballot in November, if those are approved, and the financial orders that are on the warrant are approved, the tax rate will be 16.44. Actually, I believe it'll be a little less than that, but that's a conservative number. $1 on the tax rate is $544,000. So every time you add $544,000 in spending, you add $1 to the tax rate. And stabilization fund currently has $70,000 in it. We don't have our free cash certified. We expect that that'll be done by the Department of Revenue right prior to setting the tax rate. Equalized value, that's our debt limit if we wanted to be borrowing. None of this is important, but what I've included on the electronic spreadsheet is this little tax rate calculator. So there's your total assessed value. If you give me a number, let's say if we're going to increase the taxes by $20,000, what you do is put $20,000 in there, and that'll give you the impact on the taxes. So $20,000 in new spending is 4 cents on the tax rate. So you want to play around with spending figures. that's the summary, Mr. Chairman. Anybody wants to question?
I just have two quick things. The first is regarding the 1% increase in the 24,000. Is that assuming that the school district and the VOTEC, is that assuming that they're level funded, or does it not take into account?
Doesn't take into account that.
Okay. And then the other thing that I had was just a comment. I just want to thank the town administrator and the current financial team for all of their work. If you notice, we're expected to have our free cash certified 6 months earlier than we had it certified last year. So I just want to thank them for the work that they've done, and we can see that we are not just taking small steps forward, but leaps forward when it comes to increasing efficiency and getting on the ball with